the central, haunting paradox of the later decades is that just as your external life finally begins to quiet down, your internal world can suddenly become deafeningly loud with the voices of people you haven't spoken to in 30 years and the weight of decisions you thought you had buried long ago. Does that sound familiar? If it does, I want you to know you are absolutely not alone. This experience, this sudden internal audit of your entire life, it isn't a sign that you've failed to move on. It's not a personal failing at all. In fact, it's a common, structural, and even necessary part of aging. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack exactly why this happens. And more importantly, we'll walk through a clear protocol for navigating it, so you can move from being haunted by your past to being whole. So to even begin this work of reconciliation, we first have to understand the architecture of our own minds. You see, understanding why these old regrets are bubbling up to the surface is the first, most critical step. It takes the shame out of the equation and lets us see this process for what it really is, a biological and psychological mandate for closure. For decades, your life was likely defined by what psychologists call instrumental distractions. Think of it like a massive psychological dam. The structure of that dam was built from your career, deadlines, raising children, paying the mortgage, all those demanding, future-focused goals. This constant activity held back this huge reservoir of your emotional history. But then, things change. You retire, the kids are grown, the daily emergencies just fade away. That scaffolding dissolves, and for the first time in a long, long time, you have what's known as a cognitive surplus. The dam is gone, and all those long-suppressed memories, the what-ifs, and the unresolved feelings, they begin to float to the surface. But here's the thing, this isn't just a passive process. Your brain is actively driving it. The famous psychologist Erik Erikson identified the main developmental task of our later years as achieving integrity. This is a deep psychological need to look back on your life and see it as a coherent, meaningful whole. Your brain is essentially trying to write the final chapter of your life story, and it needs all the previous chapters to make sense. So regrets resurface because your brain flags them as loose threads, unresolved plot points that are keeping the narrative from feeling complete. This isn't your brain torturing you, it's your brain trying to do its final and most important job. And there are a few other powerful forces at play here too. You've got socio-emotional selectivity theory, which basically says that as our future gets shorter, our focus naturally shifts. We become less interested in learning new things and way more invested in finding emotional meaning in the life we've already lived. Then there's a biological component, the thinning filter. As we age, it gets a little harder for our brain to just push away intrusive thoughts. Now, let me be really clear about this. This is not a cognitive decline. Think of it as a biological nudge, your brain's way of saying, hey, we can't ignore this anymore. It's time to deal with it. And finally, you have the narrative closure gap. For most of our lives, we kind of use tomorrow to excuse our yesterdays. But when there are fewer tomorrows, the brain demands an audit. And this chart here, it really just sums up that profound mental shift. You can see it, right? The constant future-focused energy of midlife on the left, and how it transforms into this more reflective, integrative focus of later life on the right. We move from a life of building things and being distracted to the quiet and, sometimes challenging work of the internal audit. It's basically a fundamental update to our psychological operating system. Okay, so that's the why. We get it. Now for the big question, what do we actually do about it? How do we navigate this internal audit without getting swallowed up by shame? Well, this brings us to the core tool for this journey, the narrative reconciliation protocol. And I want you to think of this not as therapy, but as a way to step into the role of the author of your life story, giving you the power to write a satisfying final chapter. This right here, this is the foundational reframe. Regret is not a ghost meant to haunt you. It is an invitation. Just let that sink in for a moment. These memories, these feelings, these loose threads, they're resurfacing because they're asking to be woven into the complete tapestry of your life. They hold wisdom and lessons that are absolutely essential for feeling whole. They are not here to punish you. They are here to be integrated. So the protocol for accepting this invitation has 3 core pillars. Think of this as the roadmap that's going to guide you from the chaos of regret to the clarity of wisdom. We're going to walk through the third-person perspective, the accountability audit, and the legacy letter. The first step is this really powerful psychological shift. Instead of seeing a past mistake through your own eyes, which are often clouded by shame, you consciously choose to view your younger self as a character in a story. Now, this is not about dodging responsibility. It's about creating just enough cognitive distance to move from self-judgment to genuine curiosity. You can start to ask,
What pressures was that 30-year-old character facing? What information did they lack back then? What were their motivations? This simple shift lets you extend the same compassion to your younger self that you would to a character in a good book. Next, we stop the vague, endless circling. You know that feeling? Unfocused regret feels like being lost in a thick fog. The accountability audit cuts right through that fog by forcing you to name the specific missing piece. You have to get precise. What is this regret actually asking for? Does a part of you need to offer an apology, even if it's just to yourself? Do you need to practice some self-compassion for a choice you made under pressure? By defining the need, you turn an overwhelming feeling into a specific, manageable task. And this brings us to the final, crucial step in the protocol, creating a narrative exit script. A great way to do this is with a legacy letter. You write out the apology, the forgiveness, or the new understanding you've reached. Now, the key here is that the main person who benefits from this letter is you. Even if the other person involved is long gone, the physical act of articulating the closure proves to your own brain that the chapter is finally finished. You are writing the ending. You are filing the lesson away. So we have the protocol, that's the what. Now let's get really practical and talk about the how. How do you actually implement this in your daily life? This is the Architect of Integration strategy, a clear 4-step blueprint for putting the protocol into practice. The first step is all about structure. It's about taking back control over when and how you engage with these difficult memories. Instead of letting them ambush you throughout the day, you decide the time and place. You do this by creating what we'll call a memory mining window. Just set aside 15 minutes a day, that's it, to intentionally sit with and examine one past regret using the protocol. This simple act is totally transformative. It turns you from the passive victim of random intrusive thoughts into the active director of a controlled integration task. You're basically telling your brain, hey, thanks for the reminder. We'll deal with this at 2 p.m. Until then, we can focus on right now. The second step is about changing your internal script. It focuses on fundamentally shifting the dialogue you have with yourself about these regrets, and finally silencing that harsh inner critic. This is about practicing compassionate characterization. When a regret pops up, I want you to try stating a simple phrase out loud. Something like, the 25-year-old me was doing the best they could with the narrow tools they had. Saying it aloud is really important. It engages different parts of your brain than just thinking it. This verbal affirmation acts as a pattern interrupt, replacing the voice of the critic with the voice of a compassionate biographer. Okay, step 3 is all about efficiency and radical clarity. It's about sorting your past into 2 simple categories, things you can change and things you must accept. For every single regret, you need to define the action versus acceptance split. Ask yourself one simple, pragmatic question. Is there a tangible, physical action I can take right now? Can I make a phone call? Can I write an email? If the answer is yes, great, you have a clear action step. But if the answer is no, then the task immediately and completely shifts. It becomes a task for internal acceptance only. This split stops you from wasting precious energy trying to change a past that cannot be changed. And finally, step 4. This is about making closure real. It's about giving your brain the tangible, physical proof of completion that it's actually craving. Our brains are deeply connected to our senses. A symbolic act can be way more powerful than hours of just thinking about something. This is why a closure ritual is so effective. After you've worked through a regret, give it a physical end. Write it on a piece of paper. You can place it in a box, signifying that it's been filed away, or you could even safely burn it, symbolizing its release. This physical ritual provides the sensory proof your brain needs to truly register that a chapter is closed. By doing this work, you are not erasing your past, not at all. You are completing it. You are moving toward the ultimate destination of this journey, becoming the integrated elder. This isn't about being a perfect person, but a whole one. Someone whose story, with all its triumphs and missteps, finally makes sense. Let's be perfectly clear about the objective here. The goal is not perfection. It is integrity. It's not about creating a sanitized past. It's about having an integrated story. We are not aiming for forgetting, we are aiming for reconciling. Ultimately, this whole process is about moving from a state of being haunted to a state of being whole. That's where wisdom is found, in understanding how all the different parts of our lives shaped us. We've covered a lot of ground, from the deep psychology of memory to a practical step-by-step plan. But knowledge is only powerful when we actually put it into action. So let's talk about your first step. Let's make a commitment to begin this journey right now.
Here is your first action. Before this day is over, I want you to identify just one unfinished thought or regret that's been on your mind. Just one. Then grab a piece of paper and begin to write its story, but do it in the third person. Start with the simple words, "Once there was a person who." This small act is the beginning. It's the first step in creating that crucial distance, the first step in silencing the critic, and the first step toward closing your most difficult chapters and finally, truly finding peace.